movies for black girl nerds.
Hello, Halle. Thank you so much for your
Hello.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is entirely mine. I look at Jo Fowler in Moonfall, and once again, no matter the accolades, the education, the preparation, the experience, women, Black women, are still questioned about their abilities to do things. When you look at Jo, and when we first meet her in her early mission to going on this mission to save the earth, what keeps her from getting up when it would have been so easy for her to say, you know what, I tried to tell you, you didn't listen?
What keeps her from getting up? What do you mean by that?
What keeps her getting up and motivated to continue to engage in these missions, although they were doing their best to kind of put down what she had contributed in the past?
Uh, well, I think as a black woman, it's kind of what we're used to doing. If you want to know the truth, we're used to proving ourselves over and over and over and knowing the truth about something and having to convince others of what we know. I mean, you would say that probably yourself. It's just what we do. It's part of how we're hardwired.
Mhm. What I love about this film is just the unknown in space. There's so much we don't know. It's so vast and immense. There are things out there. As you prepared for Moonfall, did you question any ideas that you might have about what happens in space and what might be out there? Because there's just so much that's out there that we don't know about.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I liked these kinds of movies, and I did a television show called Extant, sort of playing a life of an astronaut, is I believe there's got to be other life out there. We can't be the only life in this, big universe galaxy. I don't know what that life is, but I'm fascinated by it. And every time I get to read something about it, I love metaphysics. I love reading about, UFOs or just, I'm fascinated with what is out there. And I believe there's life out there. And I wonder if in my lifetime that will you know, be proven, and what will that look like, and in what form will we realize that? I secretly hope that some of those answers will become clear
Mhm.
before I leave here.
Me too. The pairing of Jo and Brian makes sense because they've worked together before on a previous mission. But then you add in KC as this kind of wild card who
Yeah.
is not of the level of experience they are. What makes this combination of people work as they are racing against time?
Well, I think it's a great, it's the relationship that I have with Patrick, I think is key. But John comes in, KC, and he represents the everyday man. He represents the civilian who is not a trained astronaut, who has never been to space, but is on a mission of a lifetime. And I think as a moviegoer, you can sort of go on this journey with him, and I think that's what makes it kind of compelling. Real everyday people can see themselves through his character in this movie.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you so much. I appreciate your time and have a wonderful opening. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patrick, for your time. I appreciate it.
Sure, sure. Every time I hear it's from Black Girl Nerds, I love the name of that. It always gives me a chuckle. I love
Oh, thank you.
it.
The pleasure is entirely ours. Brian Harper's return to the moon for this mission in Moonfall is it's a difficult decision to make given his first outing and what happened to him after his original mission and changed his ideas of space travel. And what struck me was when people challenge our intelligence versus people challenging physicality. With Brian, he's an intelligent guy, he's an astronaut, he's well prepared, but yet that was kind of questioned in his first mission. What is the shift, do you think, that happens for him that makes him realize it is okay for me to return to the moon for this mission to save the earth when so many elements in the past wanted to dissuade him from ever pursuing that ever again?
Right. I think it's a couple things. I do think it's tied into his relationship with his kid, who never had faith in him. I think it's also he needed a purpose, and I felt like he hasn't had a purpose for the past several years, which I think certainly happens to a lot of vets. Come back, they're given a job, whether you're a soldier or cop, whatever, and that's gone, and you feel yourself not knowing what to do anymore, especially when your livelihood, like you said, is challenged, and they're wrong, right? They're wrong in their assumptions. So he's got to get past his own ego of wanting people just to say, sorry, we believe you, because he has a task at hand, because he actually deep in his heart knows he's right and knows he can help. He just wants to know that he's in an environment that's comfortable and that supports him and that believes him. And that's actually what kind of takes Casey. It's why he brings Casey along with him, this guy who could be thought of as conspiracist kook, but his theories are pretty spot on. So he finds some camaraderie in that.
Absolutely. There's so much mystique steeped into space travel. We just don't know a lot about now. And we see that they release more information about, NASA findings and all these types of things now in the modern era. By preparing for Brian, did this make you think about your own ideas of what is out there? Did you have any grand ideas of what you think is out in the beyond?
I mean, I still have ideas that are out there. I mean, I guess in some ways, even though this is a big, fun, splashy movie, I have always thought, when we think of is there life after there, I think the knee-jerk reaction is there's like people out there. And if we look at how we've evolved, right, as humans over 100,000 years or whatever, then we understand like where we've come. And then it's like you have to sort of get very deep and think, okay, if there is life out there, what stage is that life? Is it at like blue-green algae stage, or is it like us in a million years? Like, I don't know. It actually does make me think about that once we get into the high concept of this movie, because it is completely outlandish, but at the same time, you do start to think, well, I don't know. We have no idea. I do believe it's infinite. I'm, pretty, so for me, it does raise a lot of fun questions.
For sure. Well, I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And, stay true to Patrick. Don't let people talk you off your square.
Oh, no, never.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, Dr. John Bradley. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you. I liked Casey so much because I think of all the times I've had really grand ideas that were correct, but it was a struggle to have them heard or just people to see me and hear me. When you look at Casey and his ability or his quest to make people hear him, did you think about your own ideas or times you wanted to make your own opinions heard or anything related to space travel or just grand ideas in general?
Yeah, that's really the key to him in the early part of the film, isn't it? He's frustrated. I think so many of us can lock into that sense of frustration when you know yourself to be right. And all it takes in Casey's life is just one person. He's just looking for one person to validate him and say, no, I understand. I not only agree with you, but I know what it feels like to be this frustrated. And for Casey, as soon as Brian comes into his life, a man who's also knows what he saw to be a fact and is being rejected by everybody he tells about that, as soon as they meet each other, they know that they're bonded with this sense of finding each other and knowing that each other they're going to give each other the confidence to take this further. And they wouldn't be able to go on the journey that they go on if they'd never met each other, I don't think. And sometimes, in life, you're just waiting for that one person to tell you that you're not crazy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Moonfall, although it's an extreme case of what could be out there in space, there's so much we don't know. There are people who hold that belief that things out there are constructed. As you prepared for this part, did you have any ideas about space and space travel? Because unlike land and earth, there's so much we just don't know that's out there, and they only give it to us in little bits and pieces from the government the last few years.
Exactly. And the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with when it comes to space is just the sheer size of it. That we think, because it's all that we know, we think that our planet, or at the very, our galaxy, for example, is all there is. We can't really conceive of what it's like to be bigger than that. But the universe goes on as far in that direction as it does in that direction and that direction. So there's just something about the sheer expanse of it and how insignificant we are in the middle of it all. I think people struggle to sort of process that, really, as they're going about their own lives and sweating the small stuff and worrying about these tiny insignificant things. Sometimes to be told that you don't matter, you and our planet doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Sometimes that can be a bit of a breath of fresh air. So I can sort of understand the need to think more about space, because sometimes it pays quite nicely to just know your place within it all.
Mm-hmm. It makes for a great deal of humility, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And, I'm scared. I look up at the sky once in a while, like, what is out there? So I thank you for that. Take care. Thank you, Roland, for your time. I appreciate it. What is very intriguing to me is just space in general and how little we know about it. It can be tranquil to some people. It can be menacing to others. In your mind, when you were setting the tone for Moonfall, were you looking to create an atmosphere that was menacing to those who are watching, or something more tranquil, even though they have this mission that they're trying to complete?
Well, it's a race against time because they have only like 3 weeks, so that's not a lot of time. Secondly, well, the whole world is at stake because, there's it will get destroyed when they don't conclude their mission. So, but on the other hand, I'm really fascinated by this idea that the moon is built, and then you ask yourself, who built it? And you have like a whole other adventure you can plug on top of the whole disaster movie.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people have ideas about space and what's out there. As you prepared to direct Moonfall, did you have any of your own strong ideas of outer space and whether things are built or not built, like we see our characters in the film?
Well, I always was fascinated by space. My very first movie was about the space shuttle program, and and that's I did as a final movie in film school. So I was always fascinated, and but like these days you can make this look like really, really amazingly real, and that's like kind of what really kind of drew me to this film, because if you can make it super real, then you can also like kind of make the inside super real, and that's like kind of where everything goes anyway.
As you mentioned your early films, you have earlier films where you explored space. When you think about those early films and Moonfall, is there something you did in Moonfall that you thought, man, I wish I would have had this all those years ago, the first time?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like kind of when I look at my old movies, I'm like, oh my God. But I mean, it was like 35, 40 years ago and I started. So it's like, and I made like my first movie when I was very young. And so I did 4 movies in Germany before I even came here. So yeah, but definitely, I mean, I would love to redo them, but that's naturally not possible.
Of course. But I mean, I'm sure they're still brilliant in their own way. I mean, look who's making them. I appreciate your time. I'll be the same. Thank you for talking to me today, and it has just been a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.